Today's conversation is about masculine and feminine balance within ourselves and in our relationships. I'm joined by Alejandro Ortiz, an EntheoGuide based in Tulum, Mexico. Alejandro works closely with men to help them reconnect with their hearts, soften emotional armor, and step into conscious masculinity. Together, we explore brotherhood, vulnerability, relationships as mirrors for growth, and why true partnership begins with inner balance. Welcome back to Love of One podcast. Today, I am honored to have Alejandro here with me to talk a little bit about the masculine, the feminine from a men's perspective, and how once we tune into our heart center, man, woman, doesn't matter, how life seems to flow a little bit easier for all of us, but also in relationships. I'm just going to dive in because I'm really excited to talk about this topic with you today and just see what sparks. So just to start off, is it okay if you could just introduce yourself a little bit about what you do, what it is you're working with, the energies you're working with, and we'll start from there.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Angela, for inviting me to share my journey, my experience with your audience. I work with men and I do men experiences because this is my life purpose. My journey through the plant medicine also showed me what I was resisting. And yes, I was resisting that. I'm a healer, and my purpose is to connect the men's part to their fire, their inner power, to let them change the love for power or the power of love, and that's what I do. That's what fulfills my soul. And also, I consult wellness businesses. That's my line of work for the last 20 years. And I also do journeys with plant medicine.
And since you just work with men, what does that look like? What does that container look like? If you could explain that a little bit for people.
Yeah, I have discovered that when men are in a brotherhood group, or when they are just in a container where there's only men, there's a very different energy when there's only men. If there's just one woman, the whole energy changes. And this container of being only men allows them to actually show a little bit of how are themselves authentically. Obviously, the container has to be very well lit, but happens something very magical. There's a lot of transformation because they get to feel these brotherhoods, this love for another man, which is not a romantic way, but it opens up their heart, and they actually realize what is this? It feels really good. It's the love of the brotherhood, and most of the times, a lot of men haven't experienced that, not even from their father, like a real hug, like a real, I see you, I see who you are, and I love you just the way you are from another man. And that's super powerful. That's very powerful.
Oh, I would agree. Kind of like where, I've never seen my father cry, or my father said, be a man, don't cry, and that is hogwash. Yeah. When someone says the term healed man, what does that mean to you in your perspective?
A healed man. Okay. Well, I'm not a fan of the term healing.
Mm-hmm.
I rather use transform or evolution, transformation. In my perspective, in my opinion, I don't think we heal the ones. We transform and we evolve. I think the ones always are there, like scars, but they are not bleeding. They are not hurting anymore. But I guess when somebody says a healed man, it's because they have done inner work. They have They have to have the courage to look into themselves and do work either through therapy, either through a men's circle, either through retreats, through workshops to actually understand the restrictive patterns in themselves and be willing and have the courage to work on them. And they have transformed. They have transformed those restrictive patterns into healthy patterns that helps them to transform and move forward in their lives. So that's what it comes to me when I hear I heal men. And I'm still is doing the work because this work never ends. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
never
It
ends.
never ends.
And we are humans. We are going to make mistakes, and we need to learn from those mistakes.
Absolutely. I wanted to bring up the term healed because so many people use that. And I myself don't like that term either because it's not, I don't know, it's a loose term for me, right? Like a healer. I hold space, you know? So I wanted to bring that up and see your input and also just to raise awareness to that word that it's actually more than that. It's not just I'm healed. Like a broken bone is healed to me.
Yes.
And yes, and always it's never ending. And here I even think, I've been doing this like forever, like 4 or 5 years. Am I done yet? No, I'm just like, just crack the next, and crack the next. So I love that perspective. I'm glad that that was your perspective as well. Where do you find, since you do all these men circles and stuff too, where do you find the biggest disconnect to the feminine aspect within men comes from? Is it because they didn't feel mothered? Is it they just have always been told to just buck up and be a man? Like, is there some sort of a patterning that you see or recognize in these circles?
Yeah, I think the source is the current society, and and actually, I think it's more than the current society. I think it's been embedded through centuries into the man psyche. Every society talks about how women have been suppressed by the masculine, by the patriarchy, how much they have suffered, and that's obviously true. But we don't hear how much men have suffered through this programming of men has to be strong, has to be steady, he doesn't have to show their emotions, he doesn't have to show a vulnerability, and that has impacted huge in the mental health of men throughout history. So man that wants to do the work and starts to do the work right now, they have to actually work on generational trauma of all this energy that have been embedded into us. Like, no, you can't be vulnerable. You can show your emotions. You need to be strong. That's the most challenging part that I see, because we are actually working to break a program that has been embedded to us, not only in the current society and for the last decades, from the entertainment industry, movies, songs, magazines, but from all the others generations, like fathers, grandfathers, and wars and military from past. All that it's in the man, and we need to work on that. So that's, I think, in my opinion, I think that's the most challenging part, to break open the main armors, because, and I can talk this from my experience. I built in myself like tons of armors. Like I was like an onion, like layers and layers and layers and layers of these mass and armors, because I was protecting my heart, and And I had to do a lot of work to start peeling off all those layers. And that's, for me, that's, I think, in my opinion, that's the most challenging part for men. And I see it in the men experiences that I offer. Yeah.
I love that. Being a woman,
Yeah.
what you always hear how, oh, the woman always gets, all these ancestral traumas and being burned by the stake and blinded and told to shut up and ridiculed and witchy and all these things and pushed to the side and just have babies, and which is true, but there's not a lot to speak about and bringing to the surface that men also have their own challenges, their own ancestral wounding of just of missing their feminine balance with their masculine. And that is, we all need to be balanced in both, right? And so there is good conversation, and um yeah, there's that same conversation had on both sides, just looks a little different, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's a work that has to be done in together, man and woman, so we can actually experience a sacred union in the planet. Well, first within ourselves, as the first work, each man, each woman, then together, so we can actually experience this beautiful and magical sacred union in this world, in this planet. And it's a work in progress. I see it, but it's a work that it has to be done by both sides. So we can meet in the middle.
So let's talk about that then, because there are many of my friends who are in relationships, coming into relationships, coming out of relationships. I myself am in no relationship, and it's because when one starts to go down this journey of transformation, um, and and getting and being seen and heard, and having your wounds be seen and heard, and your ancestors and your body being seen and heard, and you move through this transformation on your own, sometimes your partner isn't meeting you there, and that could cause a conflict. And so, is there something that you could speak on that about the people that you work with, the men that you work with? Are they experiencing that as well? And what are they feeling like? Are they just feeling not seen and heard by their partner, regardless if it's man or woman? Or they just, I mean, what I always love it if partners could do it together, but sometimes we have these soul contracts that's not what the whole purpose of our relationship was for. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me to answer that question, I think I like to first state something about relationships. For me, the best way to evolve as a human being is in a relationship
okay.
with another woman as a man, and for a woman as a woman with another woman. And it's fine if you don't want to evolve, if you want to be happy and at peace, you want to stay the way you are. Maybe single is your path, because you're going to be very at peace and happy in single, because nobody's going to reflect your shadows the way they are reflected when you are in a relationship. And then obviously, if you want to step into a relationship, the best way to approach into a relationship is to, well, and this is me, this is my opinion, and this is my perspective. I think it's like 5 key elements to have a long-term and conscious relationship. So the first thing I say is you have to have the same vision, right? Like if I want to live in Tulum and you want to live in California, then it doesn't matter if we love each other and there's too many commonalities and we have other things. If your vision is going this way and my vision is going to this way, it's not going to work. And if you decide and choose to step into that relationship, you are going to be bumping a lot of times, right? And you're not going to enjoy the ride. The other element is to have the same core values. If I value freedom and you value freedom, if I value courage, you value courage, and I value truth, and you are truth, then we're aligned because that's my compass that directs my life, and that's going to be the compass that directs your life. So in every decision that we might encounter and that we need to take in our relationship, we will be aligned, right? So the other element is knowing our wounds. I need to know my wounds, and I need to know that I'm working on those wounds. And I need to know your wounds, and you need to know your wounds, and we both need to know that we're working on those wounds. And we have to be willing to accept each other fully. I choose your light and I choose your shadows. I know your shadows and I accept them. And I'm fine with that because I'm here to support your journey into evolving through those ones. And I need the same from you. And the other element, I think, is the fifth, is to recognize those shadows when you bring them into the relationship, apologize and repair and work on them. And for me, if you have, I think, those 5 elements, you can have a long-term relationship, and all the other nuances from the dynamics in relationship can fit in within those 5 elements. So when somebody, you say, is transforming and evolving through their human journey and the other person is not, maybe the vision has changed and also the core values have changed. Mm-hmm. And for me, you need to have a very honest, from the uncomfortable conversation and do a checkup. Like, what are your values now? What is your vision?
Yeah.
And if it's not aligned, then even if I love you, I mean, a lot of relationships ends not because there's a lack of love, but it's because there's a lack of vision or there's a lack of alignment, and sometimes they don't see it. So it's for me, it's about like, okay, this is where we are at, and this is what I want from my partner. Can you give it to me? Are you willing to give it to me? Can you give it to me? And then offer the opportunity to the other person to actually see where is their other person and choose if they want to do that, if they can. If not, the most conscious and harmonious and loving way is we are not aligned. I love you, but we are not aligned. So, and for me, that's the most highest form of love, letting go somebody through love if you are not aligned anymore. And that's also, as a man, that's being in your kingship and your magician archetype, or as a whole embodied man, because you are actually being clear, giving direction, giving structure, also taking in consideration also the emotions and the highest alignment, not for you or for that person, but for the planet, like sometimes we decide for our own sake. But what I have learned also in the past is this for the highest sake of humanity? Okay, if it's good for me, but first is like, what is it the best for the collective consciousness?
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I do know too, in my experience as well, that when you have relationships that were pretty abusive, a lot of times those woundings are mirroring a wound of yourself. It's good to, I would think, for myself, the reason I am single at the moment is because I choose to be, because there's a lot of talk about planetary alignments right now where it was like, oh, it's bringing up these relationships, and some relationships they fall off. And I realized it's not a relationship with anybody but myself. Like, I am having a different relationship with myself right now, and I need to be aligned with myself and my truest form of myself before I can meet anyone to meet me where I'm at, to meet them where they're at. I think there's a lot of that too going on, where people are consciously saying, I want to be single right now because right now I'm really working on myself. I'm going inward, right? I've noticed all these things around me. I've noticed these wounds, these things that are mirrors and all these people and relationships. Then now I need to kind of categorize them, be aware of them, move through them, transform through them, to be able to step into my own power to see what I really, really want in a sacred partnership, right? Because if I 5 years ago just started another relationship like my past has always been, I don't know where I'd be right now, but I probably would be here talking to you. And so I think even being single for a while is healthy because it allows the awareness to come into ourselves, to understand, where do we want to meet? Where do we want to find that person who meets us where we are now? And we are humans, where our whole purpose is to come here to evolve and grow and learn. And so if we're not with the partner who wants to grow and learn, then yeah, like you said, I love, leaving and saying goodbye with love. Like, we recognize this isn't where we are, but thank you for all the lessons we've learned along this path. And it's time just for us to move on to the next lesson and the next growth and the next stage of that evolution of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to expand a little bit more in what you mentioned, because I think there's a lot of women and also men that right now they are deciding and choosing to be alone, to heal, because or to find themselves, which is good. But I think there's a tricky part from that concept about staying alone, because choosing to be alone, because there might be this perception that you are healing and you are, which is true, but if you stay there, maybe also you can probably restrict yourself to actually find someone, So I think it's tricky, that concept. I think it's good to first know that you are at peace with yourself, that you know your worth, you know that you love yourself, and be at peace with that. But also being open to the experiences that the other mirrors are going to bring you. Because again, I have experienced this. I have been by myself and I have seen like, oh, you know what? I already transformed these wounds and I am at peace. And I started exploring a relationship, and then I see already certain patterns that are there. And actually, it has given me opportunities to realize, oh, you know what? I have transformed these ones. It's
kind of a test of yourself, where you're yourself.
I think as long as you keep yourself in integrity with your values and your vision, and you know that you are at peace with yourself, I think it's very valid also to explore with other mirrors, meaning men or women, and see where you're at, and in that you might find your soulmate.
Yeah, you never know. Once we're ready for that, right? Sometimes we also go in solitude to break these cycles, to find out, to then get to the next cycle of breaking those cycles with a mirror. Along my journey in my very extensive work, I realized too that we really do place everything in a particular way before we arrive here. All these different probabilities and circumstances. And sometimes we purposely put a block in where we are before we say, okay, I'm ready. Let's go. Let's go find our let's go find our counterpart. Because it's where we're supposed to be met meeting ourselves before we're healthy enough to say, I'm not doing that anymore, right? I'm not continuously having relationships. I'm breaking the loop, right?
Yes.
And that's what we're ever done. And I do believe in sacred partnerships. I'm not, poo-poo. I'm almost ready, but
Really, so when you are already at peace with yourself, and when you are already within your sacred union, you become magnetic.
exactly. We fly with our
And
tribe, right?
then you're attracting, and then you are actually discerning, like, okay, is this the right partner for me?
Yep.
But you are no longer going to find somebody, or in the cases of men, you are no longer chasing. You
Uh-uh.
become magnetic, and both women and men become magnetic, and then you are just attracting, and you is just discerning whether that person aligns to you. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Magnetic, right? That's frequency. Everything's frequency. So
Mhm.
I'm just looking for high vibe. You know, that's where I'm at. What does an unhealed masculine energy show as in relationships or relationships with themselves or in their work environment? What does that look like typically, the masculine standpoint?
Yeah. In those usually, I choose the terms of unconscious masculinity. I heard you said unhealed. I like to call it unconscious masculinity.
Oh, that.
Because I believe again that we men are natural born unconscious, and that a
Right.
woman are natural born conscious. And conscious meaning that you are connected to the divine, and obviously that's talking in general. Obviously, there's a lot of natural born conscious men, and there's a lot of natural born unconscious women. But in the majority of what I've seen is, and what I've experienced is that men are not conscious. And what I'm saying by not conscious is because they are not connected to their heart. They're not connected to the source. And because they are not connected to the heart and to the source, they are unconscious about the emotional state of someone else, about the energy of the space, of a room, of an audience. And because they are unconscious about this, they take actions that actually impacts in a bad way to others. So the way an unconscious man shows in relationships, not only in couples but in any relationship, is somebody that wants to be right always. Someone that doesn't recognize their mistakes. Someone that actually deflects deflects and shifts the blame, because because the man, that unconscious man, wants doesn't want to be wrong, so he defends, he put excuses, he shifts the blame. It's a person probably that is not confident, that he is not taking action to take the direction in his life. Um, and yeah, I think those are the most restricted patterns that I can think of on unconscious men right now. And I think those are the patterns that are the most damaging in a relationship, and especially in the relationship of being with a woman.
If the band is listening to this, so they're like, oh my gosh, that's me. What are some things that they could start to do to start opening their heart, for example? What are some key things that they can start to practice on a daily basis to start going inward, or going a little deeper than what they may have perhaps started to do?
Well, um, honesty is one of the best practices to being honest with themselves, and honesty can be painful, can be liberating, but always it will always offer transformation, always. And being honest with ourselves allow us to actually recognize the patterns and being able to actually work on them. If we're not honest, we can't transform ourselves, because we're going to be like, no, 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 I'm right. This is who I am. I'm okay like I am right now, and it will never happen, transformation. So that's
Yeah.
the first thing, the most important thing. And the second thing is you need to find a support system.
Mhm.
That's why it's important, this work, men's work, because women, like I said, you are natural in terms of looking for support, and you get together, and it's natural for you talking about your emotions. That's natural. You get together and you start talking about your emotions. That's natural to you.
Yeah.
And men, actually, the first time when I do my experiences, if there's a lot of first timers, instead of asking them, tell me what do you feel? It's like, what are you thinking now? Like I ask, what are you thinking? Because a lot of men, they don't know what they're feeling. Hey, how are you today? Oh, let
Mm.
me check. I mean, you know what? I feel a little bit of fear, but also I think there's excitement. A lot of men, they can't because they don't know how to
Right.
feel.
Because he connected their
So
heart.
yeah, man has to find a support system, whether it's a men's circle, a therapist. I mean, a lot of men, they have the perception that going to a therapist is because there's something wrong within. And as a man, we don't want to be wrong, right? So that's embedded in us. We want to be right. We need to fix things. We're fixers. So when we think that we need to go to a therapist, is because there's something wrong with us, and we don't want to accept that. We don't want to
Yeah.
accept that. But for me,
Yeah.
that's a wrong perception, because actually a therapist, it's a great tool to evolve, to move forward, and to be a better person. It doesn't matter how good you are. There's always look for improvement. And if you go to a therapist, it will help you to move forward in your path. But if you don't want to go to a therapist, then find your support system with friends, with another man, and get together, and then be vulnerable
Yeah.
of what is going on with you in your life. Just open up, like, without any mask. And if you are, if you do that, you will find that all the other men are going through the same struggles. And they will give you very good advice, and that will help you, and then you will move forward. So those practices are really, really very needed. If you have been in this world for years, keeping doing that, it's a must. It's a must. It's obviously like breathing. It's like breathing. If you don't, you're breathing. If you don't breathe, you don't go to the, if you don't go through these support systems, then you are going to walk backwards.
Yeah.
Um, so very, very needed, very needed. For a man to revitalize his masculinity, he needs nutrients. One of these nutrients is to be in a group of men, or having time with conscious men. Because sometimes they say, "Oh yes, I go with my friends to have a beer at the bar every Friday, right?" Yeah, and you talk about cars and sports and women, and
Yeah.
that's not conscious. So what I mean is like a nutrient that will revitalize your masculinity is to get together with another group of consciousness. Also, another one is to spend a time in nature by yourself. That will also revitalize your masculinity. And time with no demands, whatever it is, time with no demands, revitalize our masculinity. And fulfilling our core desires, our core demands. So those are the four factors to revitalize our masculinity. So any practice within that system will
Yeah.
help. Yeah.
I love that. And that makes a lot of sense. So thank you for sharing with our listeners because, yeah, those are good places to start. And I'm a huge, huge believer in nature. So be the tree. We're almost out of our time today. Is there any last thoughts you want to have? And how could people reach out to you and work with you in these men's circles and have a conscious discussion?
Yeah, I think a great message for men is that we might not be the whole problem in the world or in your relationship, but we are the solution. We're the solution. So if we do the work, we will solve the problem. And this is because we are the ones that can offer clarity, structure, and direction to the relationship. But first, we need to have that in our lives. If we don't have clarity, direction, and structure in our lives, we can't have that in our relationships. So we need to start doing the work, or if you are already doing the work, go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Because what I'm seeing in the world right now is this, what I call the great separation instead of the great recession is the great separation from men and women, because women, they say, we don't need men. We can do our things in our own. And yes, that's true, but I don't think is the most evolutive for humanity. And men, they don't want to date women because they think that they're too much. And this is not right. I mean, this is something that now women are actually saying, no, we don't want this anymore. And men needs to take a step up and they need to start doing the work so they can offer structure, clarity, and direction. Because I mean, it's really simple. I mean, what women want to feel love is to feel seen, heard, understood, and protected. And what a man wants from women is to be admired, respected, and free. And if we both understand that, then we can work together.
Yes, and I believe in sacred union, however that looks to anybody, right? The true balance of that just amplifies everything, and that ricochets out into the ethers, out into our universe, out into our collective consciousness. And yeah, I'm a huge believer in divine partnership, sacred union when it's healthy.
Yeah, like you said, it can take a lot of forms, but as long as there's clarity, integrity, and agreements on that, then you will be building your own sacred union.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I wish we had a little longer today because this is a great conversation. I could probably talk to you for another couple hours. Maybe part two.
Being part two, yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely.
How can people connect to you to start working with you in different ways?
I think the best way is through Instagram. So it's Evolution Con. Maybe you can put it there.
You will?
Or written.
Yep.
And then in my profile, you can find also my website. And right now it's on the instruction is being used. Yes, this is way to contact me. So
Okay.
if you're listening to Tulum, I see people when they're on vacation, one-on-ones, like what we need. See if you are here in Tulum. Yeah.
All this information will be in the show notes and in the outro after this episode. Thank you so much for the awesome conversation, the different perspectives, and I hope it's insightful for those who listen. So thank you. Thank you so Thank you for joining us for this conversation on Love of One podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe. If today's episode resonated, take a moment to notice where the balance is being invited into your own life and relationships. You can find Alejandro's work and his information in the show notes below. Until next time, thank you for being here, and thank you for continuing the journey back to the heart.